I heard you say, or maybe it was your executive producer in an interview say, we will believe it when we have a call sheet. For the Happy Time Murder. So
yes.
It's been what, 16?
16 years. I mean, so my friend Dee Robertson and I, that puppet short film I made in college that I wrote and he directed. And then we both moved out to LA in 2002. I think he had moved out a little earlier than me. But that's when we hatched the idea of like, let's do a feature, like a puppet human buddy cop movie and do it as a feature. And we came up with the characters together and the story, and then I wrote the script. And the original plan was like, he was going to direct it. We're going to go out and make it ourselves. We're going to raise a little bit of money and go shoot it. And then we realized, it's very expensive, like to make a puppet movie. You have to build every set because you need puppeteers under the floorboards. So our thought of doing it as like a cheap little indie, like quickly went away. And we tried to set it up at a couple places over the years, but didn't really pan out. And so we put it on the shelf. And for years, people would get interested in it. And Dee and I would always say, Dee, who's still heavily involved with the movie, is an executive producer on the movie. We'd always be like, we'll believe it when we see a call sheet. Like, they would attach an actor and everyone would get excited. And we'd be like, yeah, we'll believe when we see a call sheet. Or they'd get a bunch of money. Like, they'd set it up at a financing company or a production company. And we'd be like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see a call sheet. Just because we set it up at the Henson Company in 2007. Oh, wow. And 9 years went by with a lot of times where it would look good, but then not happen. And our joke, Dee and I's joke with each other was always, we'll believe when we see a call sheet. And then one day, I get a call that Melissa McCarthy's doing the movie and they're going to shoot it. And I was like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see a call sheet. Like, still. And then one day I got a call sheet. Like, then one day I got an email with a PDF in it of Happy Time Murders shooting day one. And I was like, oh, it's real. Like, it's really real. It's not going to fall apart. Like, it's really happening. And I went to set and I got to see these puppet characters that Dee and I had came up with probably drunk at a bar in 2002, and these locations like that we had imagined years ago. We're like, oh, they built the set and they built all these puppets and here they are and they're actually shooting this movie. It's real and we're on set and here we are. But still, I was still skeptical. I was still like, no, something bad's gonna happen, right? Like a meteor is gonna hit the soundstage. Still, something bad's gonna happen. Like, and still part of me sitting here with you right now, the movie's gonna come out in a couple weeks. I still think something horrible is gonna happen. Like, part of me, my pessimist personality is like, something still horrible is gonna happen, right? But I've seen billboards and bus ads. I've seen commercials. This movie's really happening. It's really coming out. Unless this is all some elaborate prank that you guys have all been pulling on me, which I would not be surprised.
It could be a Philip K. Dick reality distortion. We don't know. Is it real? Am I really a puppet? We don't know.
I would not going to be surprised if I wake up tomorrow and I walk out into my living room and I see my wife and I'm like, oh yeah, the Happy Time Murders interview I did yesterday went really well. And my wife's like, what's the Happy Time Murders? And I'm like, wait, what? And then I go to my computer and it never has existed. And it was all been a dream.
Well, if you're like most people, myself included, I get nervous when things are kind of going, because if you've had the bottom fall out of certain things.
Oh, something's going too smoothly?
Right. You're no, this is a bad sign right here.
I don't trust if anything goes too smoothly. Like, I'm always, not just with like making movies, but with anything. Like, if I get a new router from my Wi-Fi and I plug it in and it works right away, I'm like, what's wrong?
Right.
Like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that was this easy. Nothing's ever this easy.
It's going straight to the White House.
Exactly. Yes. It's going to Russia.
Didn't you write the script in like an interesting scenario? You went to a motel or something?
Well, yeah. So when Dee and I first came up with the characters, like we slowly came up with the characters and kind of the loose outline of the plot. And then when I wrote the script, when I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the script and then like, Dee, you're going to be kind of like my bounce board. You're going to be in the room with me and I'm going to be able to like run stuff by you. So what we did was like, we're going to get a hotel room and I'm going to sit at the laptop and you're going to just like be in the room, like pacing or doing whatever it is you're doing and helping me. And so we went on online, and we just found the cheapest hotel room we could possibly find, which is by LAX, and it was like a Quality Inn, and it was like $39. And remember, the only food, we had this grand vision of being bohemian artists, so we're going to go right in a hotel, and then you show up and it's just the saddest LAX hotel. And the only food anywhere near there was an AM PM where we could go get coffee, and there was a Subway, like a 24-hour Subway that we would go eat at. But we holed up in this hotel for, I think it was one night, and then we sat in the lobby. Like, we had to check out at a certain time, so then we sat in the lobby of the hotel across the street. And we just banged out, like I banged out a first draft. I mean, it wasn't good, but I mean, it was serious. It was like 75 pages in 24 hours or something like that. Just writing. And it was pretty awesome. Dee and I, we should go back to that hotel. Just like the night of the premiere.
Yeah.
We should do an after party in that sad little LAX hotel room.
Were there moments there that you're like, what are we doing? This is like we're almost living out a writer's sort of fantasy out of an 80s movie?
Yeah, I mean, as a writer, you always have this vision of like what writers are supposed to do. And I've even done it since. Like, my jam now is I love to get a hotel. If I'm on a deadline, I'll get a hotel room for a day or for a night, and I'll just stay up all night writing. Or I wrote a novel a few years ago, and when I did the second draft of it, I got a room in Palm Springs for like a week.
Oh, nice.
And I just went out there for a week. And a couple times I've been on deadline for a script, like on an assignment. And I'm like, oh, I was supposed to write the script over the last 8 weeks, and I haven't started it yet. So I'm just going to go get a hotel room for a week. But I did have a grand vision of like, oh, you're supposed to drink while writing, right? Like, isn't that what Ernest Hemingway did? So I'd buy like a big bottle of whiskey, and I'd put it on the table. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm going to start writing. And then I would have a drink. And one drink in, I'm like, I don't want to write anymore. I want to just sit on that big, comfortable bed and watch a movie. So I can't do that. I think some people can, like, drink whiskey while they write, because that's what writers are supposed to do.
Right.
But I can't. I just lose it. Like, I have one sip of whiskey, and I'm like, I want to do anything other than this right now.
Well, what about a nice hotel versus a seedy motel? Because one, you kind of think like your brain gets tricked that life is good and safe, and the other one, you realize like there's a desperation to some of it.
Well, the difference between a seedy motel or a nice motel, the only thing that's important is that you go someplace incredibly boring, so that there's nothing tempting you to do anything else. And one time I wanted to work on a script, so I went to like the Glendale Hilton in beautiful Glendale, California. Yeah. Just because I knew there was nothing around there to walk to that would tempt me to like go to someplace, because everything around there was like offices that closed down. And so I was like, oh, great. And even when I've gone to Palm Springs, I remember one time I like doing the Travelocity secret deal, like where you don't know where you're staying. You just know the price of it, because you can often stay someplace cool for like half the price, because you're basically promising to stay there no matter what. So I remember once I had to go for like a week to write a script, and it was the fall. It was like October. And so I go on Travelocity secret deal, and they're like, you can stay at a 5-star resort in Palm Springs for like $70 a night or something. Wow. And I was like, okay. So I did it. But with the secret deal, you have to agree to pay no matter what. They can tell you you're staying at the Fleabag Motel, and you have to stay there. I mean, it has to at least be the star rating that you signed up for. But anyway, so because you pay ahead of time. You have to pay before you even know where you're staying. So anyway, so I did it, and they put me at the Riviera in Palm Springs, which is like a cool old retro, like 1960s resort hotel. Mm-hmm. So I show up, and it's October, and I walk in, and I was like, hey. They're like, oh, welcome, Mr. Berger. You're here for 5 days, I see. And I'm like, yeah, what's important? I'm here to write. Like, I have my laptop, and I'm here to write for 5 days. So I need to make sure my room has a desk in it, because I don't want to be stuck in a room that doesn't have a desk if I'm here to write. And they're like, oh, well, actually, our only rooms with desks are, like, back in Tower 4, which doesn't have a view of the pool. It's actually not by the pool. I'm like, that's fine. I have no desire to go to the pool. I'm not getting in the pool. They're like, well, it's also not near the fitness center or the bar. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't want to be near any of the cool stuff. I just want a nice quiet room that has a desk in it. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, just so you know, you're going to be the only person in Tower 4. And I was like, perfect. So it's basically like The Shining for a week, because I was literally the only person in an entire wing of this resort. And it was October in Palm Springs, which is like the windy season. So you'd be sitting there like working and you just hear like howling wind outside and like trees smashing up against the window. And you would go walk around these big, spooky, totally empty hallways. And it was pretty awesome. I've tried to replicate it, but it's never worked out. But it was a magical time. But I highly recommend that. Going to Palm Springs in the off season, because it's super cheap. Because nobody's there. Like when everyone goes for the summer, like to go in pools. But go to Palm Springs in like October, November, and nobody's there. It's great. Hole up someplace. It's magic.